Thanks everyone for coming back to the brick wall live on a Tuesday. I'm really pleased to be joined by Rachel Dube. We had your husband a few weeks ago, and normally I wasn't going to do husband-wife teams, but I think that behind every great man is even better and awesome, powerful woman. So I think that it's important to bring you on, and I think that you both are doing amazing things, and found it to be really interesting, with Elite Method and what you're doing. Some, in some states, camps are closed, some they're open, Sleepaway is closed, it's not closed, who knows? So, I appreciate you joining me. I think that you're at the same desk that Mike was at when we spoke, but I still have to ask you, where are you?
I'm in my home office at my desk. Michael was sitting at my desk. This is my desk, just so you all know.
Okay, fine. So tell us, let's start. Tell us about Elite Method. What is Elite Method, and what do you guys do?
So Elite Method is a company that my husband and I started about 2-3 years ago, at least from concept to completion. And it's a private coaching program for kids ages about 4 to 16. And it combines the traditional physical skills, fitness, and sports coaching with life coaching and confidence coaching and social emotional skill development. So it's really focused on the mental and physical fitness of a child, which is very different than the traditional programs we all are familiar with.
And as I was speaking to Mike earlier, that's something that's hard to scale because you need to find someone who does the physical really well, someone who does the mental really well. I mean, because again, a lot of is and as has been well documented, there's everyone gets a trophy approach, and there's also the be a real tough ass approach. I just watched a documentary about Andre Agassi's tennis coach. And he just pushed them, drove these people against each other to create this, these amazing products. But did him, and they, didn't really like each other either. But it grew competition. So
yeah.
So why is the approach different? How do you
take a very different approach for a variety of reasons. First of all, what we do is very specialized in that we do not do group classes. Our program the methodology is based on the notion that one-on-one coaching really, really tremendously benefits children because of the rapport built, because of the customized curriculum, because of the attention that the child receives, which is very hard to receive nowadays from parents and family because we're all always distracted. So the one-on-one thing already differentiates us, and it also creates a non-competitive environment. So Agassi's attempt at creating this sort of tough love competition is not something that we do. We are very much not about breaking down the child, but building up the child from the bottom up, and filling in the gaps for whatever support they may need. And we're all about love and growth and belief in that they can achieve whatever it is they want with hard work and effort and patience. So there's really no tough love in our program. Though we do occasionally get some kids that give us a little bit of a challenge, who are non-compliant and unwilling. And the approach is not to threaten. The approach is to help them see the value in building this relationship and this friendship with the coach, and seeing the value in being outside in the fresh air. And particularly now, because of the environment that we're in and the situation we're in, our program has become that much more critical, not only to families, but to kids. So the timing is very interesting for us.
No, it's amazing. I remember we talked about this idea a couple of years ago, and then COVID hit. The one-on-one is practically the only way that you can do anything right now, if at all. So when the pandemic first hit, were people, calling you up and trying to, set up coaching sessions, or was there like still that shock at the beginning, and now that, it's, we're moving in the direction of camp, and, parents needing to fill the void with their children's time? Is there a spike now, or has there been a spike the entire time?
So it's been interesting, actually. It's been very interesting to see the timeline of events. So when this first started, parents were so freaked out by this Zoom concept, my child is home and I can't go to work. The last thing they wanted was anything additional to think about. So essentially, we just stopped all our sessions, not only for those reasons, but because we didn't know the seriousness and the contagiousness level of this. So we wanted to make sure there was no contact at first. And parents were very hesitant to give their kid any more Zoom computer time because the kids were on it all day. It's not good for their eyesight. It's not good for anything. So everything sort of came to a halt. But as time went on, we did start getting clients saying, okay, we've had the Zoom thing under control and we're able to create some sort of structure around our children's day. The only problem is it doesn't involve any vitamin D or sunshine. So please, will you have your coaches get online and do workouts with our kids? My husband in particular almost retains 100% of his clients online. Parents saw that the need was 10 times more than before because kids were getting into this sort of mental state where they just didn't want to leave the house. It was like this, I don't know if it was a combination of depression and just laziness and comfortability of just being in front of the computer and being on the couch all the time. They didn't have to get on buses and do phys ed in school. They were just in their houses and they didn't want to leave. So parents became really, really desperate to have anything to convince their children to get out of the house. So they called us and we did our best to support them.
I mean, in making that pivot, do you find, I mean, I've spoken to a lot of my friends who have kids that are a little bit older than mine. My daughter, who's 3, my oldest, you know, when she, you know, did Zoom calls with her class, it was like, hi, bye, okay, walk away. And then the parents ended up talking. But did you find with older kids, is it, you know, is Zoom for school or, you know, things like that versus Zoom for, you know, coaching and building up and, you know, doing some activity outside? Do you find that they approach it or feel different about it?
It's very different. It really is very different. Both are challenging in their own right, but a coach really has to have a dynamic and engaging personality to be able to keep a child focused on physically exerting themselves while looking at a computer, right? So the coaches have to be excellent at what they do first. And essentially, these kids were in such a difficult place emotionally that for a lot of them, it was very difficult to sort of like rebuild that coaching relationship that they had before, like the rapport. We told our coaches it's very important to keep in touch with all our clients, and they did a great job of that. But some kids had a harder time not seeing their coach in person, but seeing them on a screen. It was a little confusing, particularly to the younger ones, but everyone got used to it, and everyone who wanted online sessions got them. But we're now at a stage where we're really trying to move away from that and trying to move back into the face-to-face. Now, because we're a one-on-one coaching program, we have that ability to social distance and to be safer than group programs. It's one of the advantages in our program. Our coaches have masks available, they have gloves available, they have Purell available, they can sanitize the equipment. They do all the basics, but anything above and beyond, whatever the family chooses, that's what the coach will do. The family is extra careful. The coach will do everything they ask. The family is like, listen, we're okay. We've all had this, or we have the antibodies. Then they can take a more relaxed approach, but it's really up to the family.
So it's about the comfort level. And you know, I told Daniela, my wife, a couple of weeks ago, about 6-7 weeks ago, you know, because she was talking about doing some online coaching and as far as like training. And I was like, I don't know if I could get into that. But you know what? I found it, like once I started doing it, because I started, paying for it. It really works. And you know, again, you might not be there in physical, but the trainers looking at you through the camera and they're commenting and telling you what to do. And I've
seen my husband do it in action, and I'm amazed. I'm literally amazed at what he's able to do over a computer with kids. He tells what to do, they do it, and then they look in the computer and go, did I do it right? Should I do more? I mean, they're constantly engaging with him, and it's working. But there's nothing like the face-to-face relationship between a coach and a kid, and that's what makes our program so special, is the bond that they have, privacy that they have, and the discretion that our coaches use in sharing information. You know, the kids feel like they have a confidant, and that's a very important part of what we do. And on the computer, there's less privacy because they might be in a room with their parents and they're adults in the room. So there's less privacy in terms of the relationship.
Yeah, no, of course. And I was joking. I said, or some Zoom hacker might be in that session also. Never know.
Thank God it's never happened, but anything is possible with technology, as you know.
Absolutely. So you guys claim or say that you focus on the whole child, or you have a whole child approach. Can you dive into that?
Yeah. So it's not just sports training or even physical fitness exercise training. There are many companies that do that really well. What we decided to do was we decided to focus on the whole child. So looking at them from a social emotional perspective, because oftentimes you can have a kid who's a great athlete, but they're lacking a little bit on the maturity side or in their social skills, or they have impulse control or attention span difficulties or understanding multi-step directions, whatever it might be, it's impeding in their growth. And we address all those things on top of the sports, on top of the exercise. So we're looking at the child and saying, okay, he's proficient at this, he's excellent at this, he's not so great at this, but what about his listening, skills? What about his frustration tolerance skills? All the things that help a child get along with their peers and mature. We focus on all those things as well. So it's mental and physical.
So mental and challenges. Again, the podcast is called The Brick Wall. It's all about challenging, overcoming challenges, plowing through the brick wall when you have to. What kind of challenges have your coaches seen prior to the pandemic with many of the kids? And now during this really troubling and trying time, what have you seen and how are they breaking through the wall?
So we see a lot of interesting things. Our coaches come back to us with all kinds of interesting anecdotal stories. We're in the time of technology and social media, and with that comes tremendous benefits, but with it also comes tremendous difficulties. And one of them is that as adults, we are attached 24 hours a day to our phones, whether it's work or it's personal, social relaxation. We rarely just sit on the couch and just look around. We're always, if you have a free second, we're looking for something. And the kids that we're raising, they feel that. They feel that we don't have that off time to offer them. So we're not spending as much time just creating chit chat with our children and listening to their long stories and smiling and engaging with them, because we're so distracted, we're not focused, and we're exhausted from all that social media and all that technology that we're taking. The input is extraordinary. So kids today are feeling like they need more attention than they're getting. And it's not the parents' fault. It's just the way things are now. And for a kid, especially one with siblings, it's very hard to get one-on-one attention from a parent, where it's like more than 10 minutes of actually eye-to-eye contact and engagement with your child. Think about it. It's not that common. So when our coaches meet with a child for 60 to 90 minutes, and they're the only two communicators in that group, that child feels like he's being heard. And the coach is listening and reacting and engaging and making the kid feel like his story is important and funny. And it opens up these kids so that they feel like they can come out of their shell finally. This relationship is really tremendously important in these times.
Absolutely. What challenges have your coaches seen in working with the kids? I mean, as far as on the coaching side of it, are they finding it hard or feeling less comfortable going out to deal with students one-on-one?
Absolutely. Yeah, kids are having a hard time adjusting to being outside. I mean, it sounds absolutely crazy, but it's the truth. I mean, when else in history have kids been cooped up inside houses and apartments for weeks and weeks and weeks at a time? It's just a very unnatural thing. And then you say to them, get outside and play basketball in the driveway. And they're like, with who? How? Why? They're confused. And they're hesitant. And particularly they're hesitant from a social perspective. They haven't had this face-to-face engagement in a very long time with their friends, with their coaches, with their teachers, their neighbors that they usually play with. So our coaches are having to get a little bit of, excitement out of these kids to motivate them to leave the house. A lot of these kids are just not in a very good mental health space. And that's why we are really focusing in on what's going on with that kid. What does he need to get motivated to get outside? And what can we do to help this family get into the next phase?
With video games and technology being what it is, and we've talked about it, and obviously it's exceptionally beneficial. We're here on Zoom. I'm in New Orleans. You're in New Jersey. I've been doing interviews, with this, ghetto rig set up at home for a while. But do you have some parents who just hire you to get their kids off the couch and away from video games? Because I've spoken to some of my friends who are parents, of older kids, and whether it's their Nintendo Switch or PS4, they're just, hours and hours or any time in between, schooling Zoom, they're doing that. So, do you have folks that, hire them and then the kids are resistant to get off the couch?
My 17-year-old son included. The only reason why I don't go crazy on him for playing so many video games is that he does go outside and play basketball for 2 hours every day. So he gets his exercise in, he gets a good sweat, he's outside. So as long as he does that, he can choose to do whatever he wants with his free time. But 7, 8, 9, 10-year-olds who are not going to voluntarily go outside by themselves, who are literally giving up all exercise and outside fresh air, it's imperative that parents intervene in whatever way, whether it's an elite method coach, whether it's the dad dragging them out, the mom dragging them out. It's imperative that kids see sunshine every single day, because it's not good for their mental state to stay inside, because what they do is they dig themselves a deeper and deeper mental depression, and it's going to be very hard for them to get out of. And we're trying to sort of expedite the process, because summer is coming and kids need summer. Kids need to feel that rest from school. And we don't want them to spend the summer indoors. We want them to spend the summer outdoors. So the question, how do you do that safely in this environment, right? And one-on-one coaching is a fantastic solution. It doesn't have to be the only solution though, you know? Moms and dads can't take their kids out for a stroll in the park. They can go hiking, they can go biking. There's a lot of things parents can do if a coach is not a possibility. We just think that after so many months, or parents and kids and siblings were stuck together in the same house and a high frustration and stress level, everyone needs a break from everyone. For everyone's mental well-being, everyone needs a break. The siblings need a break from each other. The parents need a break from the children. The children need a break from the parents. Everyone needs to step apart partially. And then also everyone needs to step back together, but in a better environment outside of the house. So hiking and biking with the family is a really, really great option for families right now.
I agree. We started that family tradition when we were up in New York. Every Sunday morning, we went on a 2-hour hike, and most of the time it was a better workout for me because I had to carry my 3-year-old. But it was really nice, and just to be in nature and to be out, especially when we're tied to our technology. I think that's awesome.
Exactly. Yeah. You just have to hope that there's no reception wherever you're hiking. You'll enjoy it much more.
I couldn't even send a picture to my mom of the waterfall.
That's the best kind of hike there is.
Absolutely.
One with no connection.
Now I want to pivot. I mean, you know, camp is starting. When Mike was on, I think 3 weeks ago at this point, we were talking about camp. We didn't know, like, we weren't even okay yet what's going to happen. Like now we have the answer, which is why I thought it was so exciting to bring you back. I know in New York, day camp, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm not so well versed on this, but day camps are open, but sleepaway camps are closed, and people are upset about that. And let's talk. What's the tri-state area for camps? New Jersey, Pennsylvania,
Pennsylvania. I mean, I can only speak for Wayne County, where our camp is, and Wayne County is allowing. I mean, Pennsylvania is allowing, and Wayne County also is allowing it. I don't think they're happy about it personally, but they are allowing it. And the camp that my husband and I are affiliated with, Camp La Vie, is open, and they have put a tremendous amount of effort in pre-planning to make this as smooth a transition for kids as possible and as safe for all the campers and staff as possible. I'm getting multiple emails a day, constantly updating the protocols and the logistics and answering parents' questions and appeasing their concerns. So camp can happen. It's just going to be different than it's ever been before. And I think managing expectations for the campers is very, very important, because it's not going to be like any summer before. But I still think it's important for kids to go if they are healthy and the camp is taking responsibility to keep them safe. I think it's a good thing for kids. I'm a little confused as to why New York State though thinks that sleepaway camps shouldn't open, but day camps should. That's where the rules don't make a lot of sense to me, because sleepaway camp can create a quarantine bubble, a much safer zone.
Of course.
Then day camps, who kids go back home on the bus to their families who both were at work on the subways, and then go. I mean, there's no contact tracing with day camps.
There's no logic.
Sleepaway camps there is. So it's a little bizarre. But we are very thankful that our Camp La Vie is opening. Our kids are both very excited. My husband's excited. And I think it's going to be a fantastic summer. And it's going to set a precedent. What could be done during an international pandemic, and how can it be handled? This is going to be a very interesting experiment.
And I think the kids, like you said, they need it more than ever. I mean, to get out there, and I'm sure it's weird to reacclimate to social life and dealing with others. Even on our flight down to New Orleans, there were some people who were like clearly hadn't seen other people for 3 months and were acting a little strange. I won't get into details, but it was very interesting. So I could just imagine with kids.
Well, weird things happen at the airport as it is.
Yeah.
And even weirder things happen on airplanes. So I can only imagine what's going on now that people have lost their minds.
Yeah. Our one of our viewers, Shane, just said that, wow, I thought sleepaway camp was a no-go. So I know that, many people think that, and it was in many cases, but I'm happy to
few
say that.
Very brave camps stepped up to the plate. The camps that I know of, and don't hold me to it, but the camps that I know of that are, as of today, open. I know of Camp Moden in Maine, and I believe Camp Seneca in Wayne County, Camp Seneca Lake in Wayne County, and Camp La Vie in Wayne County, Pennsylvania. I know of those 3 camps are certainly open, but there are a lot of fantastic camps that are closed, and it is heartbreaking for a lot of kids. It really is. And interestingly, I just want to share that originally, when we weren't sure if Camp La Vie was going to open or close, we thought, well, what if they can't open because half the kids decide not to show up? What if the parents pull their kids out? As it turns out, they have a huge wait list.
Oh, wow.
Because all the other camps closed, and parents want their kids out of the house. The kids are begging to go, and parents are now trying to get into Camp La Vie on the wait list. But Camp La Vie is being very, very particular about how many campers they can let in, because they have to, adhere to safety protocols, and they're being very strict about it, which is great. But there are a lot of kids out there that are not going to be able to get into sleepaway camp, and we're still hoping to. It's very sad, actually. It
is sad. Do you think the other camps that closed, not New York, because that was, the governor ordered that, but do you think that it's about liability or safety or fear? What do you think it's about?
It's a very good question. I mean, it's interesting. I found, and this is just my personal opinion, that a lot of the not-for-profit camps closed, and more of the for-profit camps, family-owned camps, stayed open. And I think maybe partially nonprofits are run by boards where there's a large contingency of people making those decisions, and they're often subsidiaries of larger organizations. So I think that there was a lot more people involved in making the decision, and there's a lot more riding on the line for those not-for-profit camps that are part of a large organization. Privately owned camps, it's up to the owners. As long as they get the go-ahead from the government agencies, it's really up to the owners and the director, right? So there's less people involved in the decision, and it's a lot easier to everyone to get on the same page if it's the owner and the director having to create these rules than it is an entire board of a large Jewish agency, for example.
Well, it's also about entrepreneurship. My guest yesterday, Elvira Grau, who owns and runs Space Events and Space 54 in the city, she was saying, we want to open, just give me the rules. I'm an entrepreneur. My job is to figure it out. So I think the entrepreneurs, the family-owned camps, for profits, it makes sense. Give us the rules, we'll follow them, we'll figure out a way to make it work. And we don't want to get in trouble. They care, I'm sure, camp directors and owners care about children's health, and they care about the children. They want to do everything, correctly and by DOH standards. So
there's no upside to cheating right now. There's really no upside. I mean, they have to follow the protocols, because if things go wrong and they didn't follow the protocols, it could be disastrous.
Yeah.
So these camps are really, really putting their best foot forward and doing everything by the book, and really doing as right by the kids as they can. Again, kids are going to have to understand things are not going to be the same. There's no camp trips. There's no outside entertainment. A lot of things will be different. But just being outside with your friends in fresh air by a lake, that in and of itself is a huge, huge, wonderful gift for these kids and the staff too.
Oh, of course, I agree. I mean, you're taking away from the staff too. It's a break. It's getting out of the city. Our viewer Shayna, who I appreciate watching all my videos, and said that she's seen a lot of backyard camps popping up on Facebook. Have you heard about that or know about that at all?
Yes, they're popping up all over the place.
I decide that I want to have 10 kids in my backyard, and which I don't. But if I did, how do they work, and how I don't understand, because of
Okay. So both my kids were in backyard camp when they were very little. Granted, it wasn't for this reason, but they were in backyard camp, and usually it's maybe anywhere from 5 or even 3 to 10 kids, neighborhood kids, take turns going from backyard to backyard. Every week they're in a different backyard, and there's a special, and they have counselors that they hire, and the counselors have a little bit of like a curriculum. They do art, and they do dance, and they do pool, and they, things like that. And it's a way to minimize the exposure for the kids because they know it's just this group of children that these parents have all agreed to. So they all have to be on the same page with safety protocols, and they all have to, be aware of each other's exposures. But it's a fantastic idea, particularly because so many kids were planning on being camp counselors in these sleepaway camps that are now closed. And now they have alternative jobs because they can be counselors in these backyard camps. It's not the same. I assure you, when you're 17 years old and you're so looking forward to your counselor year that you've worked up for, waiting so long for, and then it's taken from you, it's very disappointing.
And those tips, I mean, come on, the tips.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And the tips too. I mean, but 17-year-olds are very social, and this is the first year where they're not campers. They're counselors, this is their staff. And with that comes a lot of benefits. And for those kids that were this year that were supposed to be going, most of them are not going to get that chance. And it's really sad because next year you can't make up for it. Next year, the next group is up. You know what I'm saying? Like this can't be. And for the kids who are supposed to go on Israel summer trips this year, that's it. Next year, it's a different plan. It's very hard for these things to be made up again. They lost it, and
you mentioned earlier, and I saw it my 3-year-old is going to camp here in New Orleans at the local JCC, and they said that once they have these little pods of 10, there's 7 kids and 3 counselors, teachers, whatever it is in there, and they encourage you to not socialize, meaning even outside of school, with the other pods. Meaning if my daughter is in school with these 7 kids, they want us to reach out to those parents and have play dates with those parents because we're all exposed the same, and have the same risk.
That's exactly correct. And that exact protocol has been transferred to sleepaway camps, where at La Vie, they happen to be calling it family units. At least that's what they're calling it right now, where you stay with your family unit and your sports, everything is with your family unit. And this way, if God forbid there is an outbreak, they'll be able to contain it within the unit and quarantine those kids and not the entire camp. Listen, we don't know, excuse me, is a second wave coming? Is a second wave not coming? There's so much uncertainty. So I think it behooves us to do what we're told and hope for the best. Now is not a time to be taking risks.
Yeah, no, definitely not. So now let's I appreciate, your insights for Sleepaway Camp. I find interesting, and Mike's, we're also, and now we have, more clarity as to who's in, who's not, what's going on with it.
Yeah.
But tell us about Elite Method and what are you guys doing as camp alternatives this summer?
So what we realized was that more than anything, what kids need is, like I've been saying all, this entire time, is to be outside. And normally our sessions are 75 minutes. But we've extended our regular sessions to 90 minutes. We haven't upped the price, but we've just made them longer. Because if you're already giving us your kids, we want to make sure that we're maximizing the opportunity for them to be outside. Because we don't know if that might be the only time the whole day where you get them outside. So we want to extend it as long as possible. So we've made our sessions longer. We have 25 coaches. I mean, they're everywhere. They're everywhere, New York and New Jersey. And we're available to families, whoever needs us, and we will adhere to all safety protocols, and we'll figure out where's your child at right now, post-pandemic or mid-pandemic, let's say. Where's your child at, socially, emotionally, physically? What are they feeling? What are they thinking? Are they concerned about their future? Are they stressed out? Are they in a bad place? Are they just anxious to play with you and they're excited? Or are they depressed and angry? Whatever it is, our coaches are trained to work with the child wherever they may be at the moment. And every kid is totally different. We have kids who are just in a great place, who just want to go outside and play and no care in the world. And then we have kids who are like, literally, you can see they're carrying the weight of the world on their shoulders. There are certain kids that are just very mature, they're old souls, and they see the stress in their families and their parents, and they take it upon themselves. And we're very concerned about those kids because it's a lot for a child to take in all that's happening, and not even just the pandemic, but everything else that's happening in the world. And what kids lack is they lack big picture. As adults, we know that life will go on. This too shall pass, we know, because we've been through other difficulties in our lives. But for a kid who's never been through that much and can't really see the future ahead, this seems like the world is going to end to them. Oh, they feel like this might go on forever. They don't understand that this will pass. And it's a big burden for these kids. And there's going to be a mental health crisis in this group of children in the next few years, and it's unfortunate, but I feel like we're doing our part to help families get through it.
No, that's awesome, and it is way deeper than just coaching and ethics right now. There is so much, and it's nice to hear that you're trained, to handle, because it goes deeper. While we're on the topic of camp, I have a former camp buddy of mine, Maxon, who was watching, who asked a question. We went to the 92nd Street Y together for about 4 years, and so always keep in touch with camp people because they're awesome. They're the best summers of your lives, right?
Camp people are the best.
The 92nd Street Y is doing virtual camp. How does that work? I mean, and I just want to say that we were polled, like, whether we would come back or not, if it was virtual camp or half Zoom camp or in-person camp. And if it wasn't in person, we opted out and said we weren't going to do it because, again, my daughter wouldn't be good with Zoom. But how does something like that work?
Okay, so first of all, I would absolutely not recommend any sort of virtual camp for a 3-year-old.
Yeah.
It's bad enough that they had any school on computers. I mean, it's not going to work. They don't have the attention span, the engagement, or the maturity to stay focused on anything, let alone something on a television where they're being told what to do. So I think virtual camp has its place in our situation. I absolutely believe it does. I think what it can't replace is being outside. I think that virtual camp can offer great opportunity for socialization. So for example, my best friend Eileen in Atlanta, she has a camp called In the City Camps. And she, for this month of June, is doing virtual camp. And at first I argued with her, like, I don't get it, what's the point? And she made a very interesting point to me. She said, well, these kids have been going to camp with us before and they have bunks and they were looking forward to being with their bunkmates and their old counselors who they adore. So they create these Zoom meetings online where the entire bunk is together. So they're chit-chatting, they're making jokes, they have memories together, the counselor's talking to them. So there's a certain rapport and socialization that these kids have been missing that she's creating for them. So while it might not get their heartbeat, racing, and they might not be playing basketball for an hour, they are getting something that's very important, which is friendship, camaraderie, socialization skills. And that in and of itself is significant. But I always say, virtual camp has its purpose. And of course they do physical stuff in the virtual camp too. There's exercising, yoga, and all kinds of fun stuff. But again, outside is what matters. Literally, kids need the vitamin D and they need the sunshine. So if you mix those two, it's very good.
So the modern day walk in the woods is now meet me in a private Zoom chat.
Seriously, that's exactly what it is.
Yeah,
Times have changed.
Times haven't changed. So Shabbos walks, right? Shabbos walks. Yeah. So Rachel, why don't you tell everyone where we can find Mike, where we can find Elite Method, and how you can help people out this summer. And thank you again for joining.
So you're very welcome. Thank you for having me, by the way. Very, very cool. So we're at theeliteMethod.com on Instagram. Elite Method, The Elite Method. You can find us in either one. And you can always call me. My name is Rachel Dube. You can find me on Facebook. You can call me and we can discuss if this is the right program for your child. And if it's not, maybe other families that could truly benefit from this. And we're happy to help in any way we can.
Thank you so much for sharing. Thanks for joining, and send my regards.
I will, absolutely. Thank you so much, Warren.